You're not excited about Aether Drift? Hopefully this video will change your mind. We've got something sweet here, folks. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And Aether Drift is now on Magic Online. So before I start recording all of your cool deck lists, I'm going to get something out of my system. So thank you to Edison for giving me a dealer's choice donation deck list I am going to use to brew around Ketramose, the New Dawn. So, 4/4, Menace, Lifelink, Indestructible God, can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. I'm going to build multiple different decks around this card. One of them is going to be a Rest in Peace deck, where just literally everything goes to exile. But before I try the weird thing, I think I'm going to try what I think is going to be a more normal-looking build for this deck list. There were a couple of modern decks that looked something kind of like this that did pretty well at, I think it was an RC, just immediately after this was released. And I'm going to use those as my starting point, but we get to supercharge everything because it is Legacy. So how are we sending things to exile? Well, number one, the easy way, it's going to be with Swords to Plowshares. But we can also just use things like Emperor of Bones to exile cards from graveyards. And although the attacking and blocking part would be great for this card, and will eventually happen as the game goes on in all likelihood, this second part is the sweet part, I think. When cards go into exile during your turn, you get to draw a card and you lose a life. So, for example, Phelia's Blink sends things to exile. So Phelia, in addition to the normal bullshit that it is capable of doing, can also just staple draw a card to its ability. And whenever you start stapling draw a card onto effects that are already pretty good, they tend to get a little bit scary. So I am very excited about this card. I don't know how greedy I get to be in terms of deck building here. And color ratios of cards definitely matters. So there's some tension in the deck between wanting to have enough white cards and dealing some amount of damage to ourselves, and maybe playing some cards that are slightly less good than other cards to keep enough white cards that we want to pitch to Solitude. Overlord of the Balemurk wants us to have a very, very high creature density, so the more mana acceleration we play and the more traditional lands we play, the worse this is. So I'm trying this with 5 of these MDFC creatures. I don't know if that is too many or not enough, or where exactly we're going to fall on that, but yeah, 5-ish feels right. I don't know if the second Shadowy Backstreet is greedy or not, but it feels like this deck wants to dump stuff into the graveyard, both for Overlord and for the giant pile of Goyfs we're running, because, like, damn, this card is just sweet. We're going to want to play this all the time. And if we crack in with this, we put stuff into our graveyard, and we can then later get it out of our graveyard as well. It's possible you could also become a Reanimate deck, doing kind of what is going on here. But I couldn't really figure out how the slots were going to work on that. The sideboard is probably rough as it stands. I know that most of it needs to be anti-combo. We have a lot of value versus fair decks here. I'm going to play a couple of things that are fair removal for the sideboard, but otherwise the rest of the sideboard is for the unfair stuff. It is possible that I should just play 4 Leyline of the Voids in this deck. Very Macabre is returnable by Overlord of the Balemurk, which is why it is currently in the deck. But as I am talking out loud, I am just really thinking about playing 4 Leylines. All right, we're gonna play 4 Leylines. Not 100% sure whether or not that's right. No, not the main deck. That'll be tomorrow's video. But it seems like a fine option. So some of the stuff around the edges here is probably going to be rough, but I am very, very excited about brewing around this card and seeing how strong it actually is. And should you need some mythic rare gods or anything else from Aether Drift, shop at TOAmagic.com. They're one of my favorite places to shop, and if I need one of these, I will use my own promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on the order as well. Remember, if you're going somewhere like MagicCon Chicago, which will either be next week or later this week, depending on when this drops, you can order your cards in advance and pick them up on site, and it's super convenient. Although there is a cutoff time for that, so check the website for that info. Alright, let's battle. My opening hand here just has too much mana. This is no bueno. This second hand is totally fine and good. We're going to Phelia into Goyf. Sorry, we're going to Phelia into Overlord as the plan. I will probably just dump the second Phelia here. Got Hedge Maze from the opponent. Witch Enchanter going under Chrome Mox is potentially fine here, although just naturally being able to cast this on 3 mana next turn if something goes wrong is perfectly reasonable as well. This is probably control. I really like the cards in my hand. I think I am just going to put Witch Enchanter under here and pass. This does mean I'm getting a non-basic with this, though. So, like, if my opponent randomly Life from the Loams, Explorations, some nonsense of that nature, it does become more awkward here. Urza's Saga prior to Ponder? Why not give yourself the option to fetch? Take that flexibility, friend. I'm not sure exactly what our opponent is doing here, but we'll find out soon. So, we will now Impending the Overlord. Trigger. Yeah, I'll use that ability. I get a Bowmaster back. Fantastic. We're now going to go to combat. Oh, do you have something like a Solitude here? Real good if you do. Nope. So now we will Phelia Blink the Overlord. This is 2 initial damage, and now Phelia brings this thing back. You haven't seen this before. Phelia gets a +1/+1 counter, and now we have the whole ass Overlord, which will return probably a White Orchid Phantom. White Orchid Phantom is a pitch for Solitude while also being something that answers Urza's Saga here. And Overlord gets to just do this again upon attack. So this is very powerful. So now we have seen both Brainstorm and Ponder. Opponent could be doing some Stifle Knot nonsense. This could be maybe a Bant control deck that has Urza's Saga and Life from the Loam in it. Looking Bant. I guess it also could be like Nadu. That's very reasonable as well at this point. And this is just there to fetch Shuko. I think I'm going to assume Nadu combo. Oh, it's here. I don't get to cast it immediately, but it's here. So I think I'm interested in this and stopping Shuko. So we will nuke an Urza's Saga here. We're going to do this pre-combat so that I can blink this White Orchid Phantom and continue to bully my opponent's mana base a little bit. So, send it. Phelia blinks White Orchid Phantom. Overlord trigger. We'll say yes to that. I guess we'll grab another Solitude, because why not? So this is 8 damage. Now, this happens again. White Orchid Phantom trigger. Let's attack Hedge Maze here. There is a basic island. I have successfully knocked my opponent off of green and successfully also stopped an Urza's Saga trigger. There's green. There's Nomads. There's Cephalid Illusionist. I will Solitude, pitching a creature here to disrupt this, and hopefully there's not Force of Will backup. There's not Force of Will backup, and we win. One more white card there, and I can double Solitude, and we're like super, super safe. But I think I have to play that White Orchid Phantom to stop Urza's Saga. So now we know we are playing against Cephalid Breakfast. I am probably going to play those ley lines that I added into the deck, keeping in mind that they don't actually stop the Nadu combo side of things. And I have some amount of other disruption that I can play as well. The thing here is that my cards don't really seem bad. I don't really know what to cut to bring in additional interaction. Like every single card in this deck, in the main deck, seems totally relevant and fine to the matchup, including the Overlord. Is it a little slow? Yeah, but it is just like one of the core engines of the deck. I can get rid of White Orchid Phantom and become less good at answering Shuko. Shuko specifically. I might need to get rid of my fun card for this match. Nadu is not a deck that is fucking around. That deck wants you dead. It seems like for this matchup, if I keep Overlord, that is probably enough value, and I don't think I need the lifelinky body. Could I go down on Emperor of Bones instead? Is that better? Emperor of Bones gets worse if I Leyline of the Void. And this could keep a higher density of white cards. Place some number of paths or Thoughtseizes beyond this. Let's get the entire playset of Thoughtseize. What do I want? More white cards for Solitude Pitch. Thoughtseize is fine. So now I have to decide if I'm willing to keep a hand that looks like this, that is just an incredible engine with no acceleration. This is so good versus any fair hand from my opponent, but my opponent is ultimately a combo deck. I think since I have boarded in Leylines that are such a high impact versus the early Cephalid Illusionist combo, I do mulligan a first fair hand like this. And this is totally fine. I can keep this junking one land here and keep a very, very good hand versus Cephalid Illusionist combo and an okay hand versus a Nadu combo. Overlord is just a cantrip that digs 5 deep. It misses 4 deep. It misses sometimes, but 4 deep looking for a creature when your deck is a little less than 50% creatures is fine. So we Leyline after our opponent has mulliganed to 5. Hopefully that has a high impact. And my Shadowy Backstreet can also help to put creatures in graveyard for Overlord. Overlord does not have to return the creature from the 4 cards that you see off of its trigger, which was something that I did not realize initially when I looked at that card. Phantom is fine. Shadowy Backstreet. Land can absolutely go to graveyard there. An opponent will probably be surveilling here. So we know that they have at least one more surveil land. We have also seen Hedge Maze already. White Orchid Phantom. I put you down in the deck tech. I take it all back. I take it all back. Nadu is scary next turn. So I have a choice here. I can nuke the Urza Saga and potentially allow my opponent to Nadu combo, or I can give my opponent 1 Urza Saga construct token and leave up Swords to Plowshares, which is the route that I am going to take here. So their Urza Saga ticks up. None of that is green mana. I believe that I am comfortable just removing that now and not taking the 2 damage off of it. So it appears that I could have gotten greedier and just not given my opponent an Urza Saga construct token. That is something that can just come back later. I'm going to put that into my graveyard and see if I draw more interaction. So the next question becomes, is my opponent playing a basic forest? Probably not. They could be, in which case I can give them green mana in a way that's awkward. But I think I would rather not let them tutor with Urza Saga and make another construct token for that matter. And then hopefully in the next turn cycle or 2, I can either impending the Overlord or directly just cast it on 5 mana. Okay, so no basic forest there. I would have expected to see the basic forest last game when I did a White Orchid Phantom trigger, I think. So that's why I was comfortable taking that line. So this is going to be fair Shuko beats. I'm not really scared of losing to that. I have a first strike creature, which is why my opponent can't crash in with their 3/2. Swords is great. I have white cards in my deck. If I want to Overlord this turn, I can play land first and then potentially play something like a Phelia. Or I can just hard cast it next turn, which is, I think, what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to leave up Swords to Plowshares and just kind of chill. That may or may not be correct. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to Swords now because I'm going to likely tap out on my own turn here. Oh, well, shit. Okay. Deal. Augur Trawler. Not what we're looking for right now. We'll get another basic. So now we're looking for white cards. We want, like, Solitude in hand. Ah, well, shit. It is a Daze. You've got it. So Nadu is a problematic card. My opponent does not currently have access to green mana. That's likely to change either this turn or next turn. That is a shuffle here. That is a follow-up Brainstorm. And that is an Urza Saga. Yup. I'm going to go ahead and cast that. It's real good here. I'm going to play this as a land. I think that there is a very good chance that next turn I can very easily use 6 mana. If nothing else, you know, we can potentially Goyf, hit a 5-drop, and cast that. Even if I hit something smaller, if I draw something that is castable. Alright, are we Naduing it? No, that is a Prismatic Ending. Now against that, I would like to have this still in hand. And Cephalid Illusionist. With the Leyline of the Void in play, that is not currently a problem. I will hold Swords to Plowshares for now. I am probably just saving that for a Nadu, to be honest. I have to reread the bottom ability here. It's a Fog, 2 and buy target creature you control this turn. Yeah, I'm gonna let that get these Shukos. It might mean that I give my opponent a little bit more life. I don't have a Bowmaster here to punish that attack. This is fine. But I would like to be able to answer a top-decked Nadu. I mean, let's find out. Memory's Journey. Okay. So now it becomes, how many times am I willing to be hit by a construct token? Slash, how am I feeling about getting Nadu'd? I think I am willing to take 1 hit. And maybe a second. So I will take 6 here. But I have some things that just kind of make the construct token irrelevant. Bowmaster's not bad. Bowmaster buys me some time. So Nomads, despite being a 1 toughness creature, has this redirection ability, meaning that Bowmaster is not very good at killing it. So with that on the stack, let's go ahead and get rid of Cephalid Illusionist. This will cause our opponent to mill 3 cards. It is still being targeted. 2 Nadus in exile now. I think I am willing to just chump block once here. Again, the longer I can hold this sword, the better a chance I have of not just dying to one of my opponent's good top decks. This is potentially something like a Daze or Force of Will that is not overly good. I think I will still cast this card. Is a Swords instead. That's not fantastic for me. At 10 life, this is probably the point where I need to think about removing the construct token. I don't really want to, but I don't want to put myself on a 2-turn clock to the construct token here. But this does open up, you know, Ponder Nadu or whatever to be absolutely disgusting. There's only 2 Nadus left in 36 cards. But, you know, cantrip decks see a lot of cards. I'm not even going to play that. I just need any creature to stabilize the board. Preferably something that gives me some value. Narcomoeba is fine. I am unfortunately taking 3 here. No flash creature. Now there's going to be some movement. Just dividing the damage. Rather dividing the buffs. I mean, I'll cast it. But my opponent still has me on a 2-turn clock by just moving the equipment to Narcomoeba and attacking in the air. So I will need a live draw next turn or I will die. Yep, there's the movement. There's another one. So I'm going to need some decent cards here. This is the point of the game where something like a Solitude would be pretty hot. Now my opponent can move those Shukos around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, well, what am I getting here? Like, what do I get off of this trigger? I don't think I hardcast this. I think I impending this so that I have more mana afterwards. There's no reach written on this. Okay, there's Solitude. Fantastic. That last card could be Daze. Could get Bowmaster. I think Solitude has higher upside. Wait, no, this doesn't work. Shit. Needed to be Bowmaster. Maybe my opponent messes up here. But I need to fetch to do this. And that brings me to 2, so my opponent can split Shukos across bodies and attempt to kill me. Unless I Solitude my own Boggart Trawler. Okay. Nope. Still alive. Okay. This is fine. It's very close to not fine, though. So fetch. Go to 2. Scrubland. Please don't daze me. Solitude. Okay. Solitude. Boggart Trawler. Go to 5. Nice. Now I can take 4. And then attack with Solitude for 3 life. And then I'll need a live draw again. Opponent has more mana. That's not currently a bottleneck. That's not going to do it. So I Solitude, attack, gain 3, go to 4, die in the air. I get Bowmaster instead of Solitude. I take 2, ping one of these, and then die. The last turn, I could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could have Overlorded, gotten Bowmaster, done this, gotten another trigger, and then tried to use that to dig. I also could have not Thoughtseized at some point in this game. What do the next couple of cards look like? Phelia's great. Well, Phelia's a little slow. If I Overlord again, this is what I'm looking at. So very close. The Thoughtseizes were bad that game. I don't know that they are bad on average, but they were very bad that game. They just did not take relevant cards. But I don't open on Leyline every time, so sometimes I do just need to take the monsters. I could do something like Wrath of the Skies to clear out tokens and multiple cards at the same time, and then hope that one of these two things ends up taking over the game as the games go long. I think I'm going to run it back as is. I could maybe go down a Lotus Petal to play a Wrath of the Skies or something. Multiple Chrome Mox is a little awkward here. I think the hand is still a keep, though. This card's pretty good. I am unsure whether or not I want to Lotus Petal out Overlord or Chrome Mox to get rid of Bowmaster. Bowmaster is just a reasonable card. I don't think I want to put Swords to Plowshares under Chrome Mox, but I'm going to think about it a little bit more. I think Swords is too important as a catch-all that literally kills everything. I'm just going to count on the Overlord to give me a new card here. We'll fetch. Grab a Scrub. Cast with Impending. Force of Will is rough there. That was the primary thing that my hand had going for it. So as we saw last game, when I don't have a source of card advantage, the deck can bottom out a little bit. I still believe it is correct to have boarded out the Ketramose for this matchup. Oh, that's awkward. I don't think I play that immediately. I don't think I'm willing to give up Swords to Plowshares to put Leyline of the Void into play immediately. My opponent probably does not have the ability to go off next turn. Some sort of Lotus Petal stuff could happen, but with no card in play yet, I think I am willing to wait on Leyline of the Void. Opponent junks a Force of Will, and what went to exile before? Ponder. Got it. Going for my mana. Rough. But that's a short-term problem, not a long-term problem. Like, at some point, I will draw out of that. I'm going to put a Lotus Petal in play so that I can cast Swords to Plowshares around days if my opponent plays a Nadu. Imagine we're going to see the Hedge Maze here now. Indeed. That Urza Saga is a problem. There's the Nadu. So I will go ahead and Swords to Plowshares that. And because my mana is potentially so tight, I think I just do that immediately. But Nadu is Nadu, so my opponent gets a trigger first. Hitting a land drop, which is why we waited till end step. Nadu does leave play. That's great. Now, I think I'm going to go ahead and cast a Leyline. It's not fantastic, but I still have 3 mana afterwards. I think I just want to attempt to get this in play now. I could trade for something like a Daze here, but if this gets dazed and then I resolve a Goyf or something afterwards, I think I am ultimately okay with that. Just staggering difference here between game 1 and the following games. I just have not gotten anything going in the post-sideboard games at all. And like one Phelia, for example, just completely checks an Urza Saga easily. All right. I'll hold that to make it look like I have interaction. Saga does Saga stuff. And a fetch. My opponent should be out of Surveil lands at this point, though, so that is just fetching the Thin from the look of it. Unless there was a cantrip that went to exile and then my opponent was shuffling. Leyline makes it a little harder to track things. So, Construct. There's the Shuko. I'm going to get clocked pretty hard by all of this. So, Shuko gets equipped. I take 4, and then I'm taking damage in sets of 7. So again, I have plenty of things that can stabilize this board, but I do have to draw them. I probably cast that immediately. It's kind of close there. All right, it's happening. So yes, I will use this ability. Solitude is a really cool card to draw. I can't play it immediately. I think that's a really good card to draw. I think I gave up some value. Or no, it's non-avatar. I can't return another Overlord. They thought of that. So land drop or white card helps me out here. We have to dodge Nadu on the other side of the battlefield. That's kind of gross. So my plan was Solitude 1. Yeah, why are we making these land drops before our ponders? That is a prismatic ending. It's fine, that potentially keeps me off of Solitude. I am at 7. This is lethal currently. That is not gonna do it. I feel like the deck let us down there. Like it is turn 7 and I just never got anything going whatsoever. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Okay, I don't think I'm willing to YOLO on this here, where I try to like play it on turn 1 and then hit a land drop off of it. I think I'm playing like 5 of those. I don't think that maths out all that well. This though, this is fine. I need to keep this as a land. I'll need to Chrome Mox something. Hello, Mr. Percy. You can't see him, but Mr. Percy here is putting his paws up on my desk, and it is very cute. I think I'm just going to put swords back. So I think I am into imprint white, fetch black. I think that's what I'm doing. And just don't be wastelandable for the first turn. So this will be basic swamp. We'll go to the bone zone. We are exiling this marsh flats. Oh wait, I'm an idiot. I could have done this post-combat to leave that in graveyard so that if my opponent does not put anything in graveyard, I still have something to do. I'm not punished for it, but that was just objectively bad on my end. All right, hopefully we don't get dazed here. But there will be fun things in the graveyard to eat on the other side of the battlefield, for sure. Opponent is not letting me eat their artifact immediately. Phelia is, like, fine to play, but I'm into this. Like, we are here to do the thing, damn it. All right, it gets Force of Will. So this is still small enough that I can safely attack into DRC here. Now, opponent is willing to do that. I'll send in for 2. So we can potentially at some point gain 4 life with this and do a menace, lifelink, indestructible, attacky thing. I lose a thing. I lose another thing. Note that once this is in play, this is indestructible. Blue-Red Delver is not touching that once that happens. That's great. Can't cast it immediately, but it's going to be frickin' huge. It's already outside of the lightning bolt range. Sure. There's some slight awkwardness here. If I play this here with this timing and this just gets dazed or something, it's possible I take 3 damage instead of 1 damage this turn. We'll see if my opponent has another color here. They could be Grixis Delver. There could be a couple of Trops in there for Westing Druid. All right, it is a daze. So I only take bonus damage if something is surveilled into the graveyard. Instant is already in there for Lightning Bolt. I do take bonus damage for this decision, but that daze is now gone. So hopefully I just draw a Mana Source and play a Goyf from Hell and easily take over the game. I am at 12. Don't have a lot of time here before my opponent's DRC just outpaces the lifelink of this, because I don't get an attack step. I'm at 9, so I'll drop Phelia. It has resolved. It may or may not be long for this world. I do need to play that pre-combat because of its trigger. I want to eat artifact on the other side of the battlefield. That is Seek the Beast in response. My opponent is Rug. So that's Ponder Wasteland, I believe. So we will take out the Bauble, which shrinks this. I'm gonna get in there. I'm going to just blink my Emperor of Bones so that I can get the +1/+1 counter on Phelia. It's possible I need to hold Phelia back. So, for example, Lightning Bolt on Emperor of Bones could happen, which leads into a, like, Surveil that does not actually turn this into a 3/3, and then I could have blocked with my 2/2. But with the Ponder showing, I don't think that makes sense. On my next turn, I can potentially just exile this creature or this creature and put it in temporarily to have an immediate impact on the game. So there's a fetch land that can represent green mana. I am taking 3 immediately. I am at 6. All right. Looks like my opponent might be playing their Questing Druid. Yep, there we go. So now we've got choices. Synergies with Emperor of Bones here are really good, right? Or no, Finality Counter. I can't just do silly blink things with it afterwards. Okay. Finality counters read something like, if the creature would leave, play again, exile it. So I could gain 4 immediate life here to try to get out of Lightning Bolt range. Or I could play my Goyf. I think I am into the immediate life. Let's do this. Oh no, there's actually not enough cards in exile. I'm an idiot. 5 total cards in exile. I can make it 6. I can't make it 7. Fuck, I should have taken out the Ponder then. I'm a fool. All right, I just did something dumb. Phelia will... this is dumb on multiple levels. I'm going to blink out DRC for a second, so that if my opponent has a Force of Will or Daze, this doesn't mess me up. Well, rather so they don't get a Surveil. Please resolve. Damn it. I think I punted this one. Because now my opponent casts any spell and the Druid kills me. I fucked this up. I can Boggart Trawler instead to clear the graveyard, make it so that this doesn't hit me, and then try to just swing lethal the next turn. And then I just locked myself to playing into Daze rather than activating this. I didn't count my fucking cards. Alright. I'm dead. I'm going to concede. That's on me. So I am into more removal spells here. I don't think I need Leyline of the Void. What are my bad cards here? White Orchid Phantom doesn't line up well versus 3/3 creatures specifically. It's fine versus actual Factual Delver. I think those can go for a couple of removal spells. Wrath of the Skies is not super impressive here. Probably about on par with this. There is perhaps such a thing as too much of a good thing. This hand is perfectly fine at not dying, but it's very easy for me to get wastelanded off of my stuff and make no real plays for the entire game. And like I Solitude something, it gets Force of Willed. I'm forced into another 2-for-1 situation. I don't think I like this hand. This is fine. I don't think this needs to be a Lotus Petal hand, though. I think I will start by playing this game on basics, and there's a decent chance that this ends up being a spell. Daze is going to be good against me this game. See what my opponent's turn 1 looks like. That's the good one. That is perfectly fine as a draw. I think I am okay playing Emperor of Bones into Daze here. Yeah? That's the Daze. I have 3 relevant 3-drops that I can hopefully chain together over the next couple of turns, though. The exile checking here is into exile from graveyards or the battlefield, not from hand. So something like Force of Will won't trigger that immediately. Solitude is fine. Solitude becomes a cantripping card once this is in play. This already lives through Lightning Bolt. It is currently Dazeable. It is currently Force of Willable. I think I'm going to play this as a bait card in hopes of actually resolving this next turn. Oh shit, we're in play. So, Boggart Trawler, exiling my opponent's thick graveyard, will turn this into an indestructible creature from hell that is going to attack while cantripping. Hey, fuck off, I need this land. I am about to do crimes. Let's focus on these really cool crimes that I'm going to do. So, this is currently going to be 5 cards in graveyard. The Boggart Trawler doesn't get there by itself yet. My opponent does get to attack. There's not enough stuff in exile yet for this. I don't know if I want to yeet 3 life to play around Daze on Emperor of Bones. Oh boy, this turn's awkward. Emperor of Bones, if it works, cantrips with this. The issue is the longer I wait on this, the more of a chance there is that I just eat 18 damage across 3 turns. My read is that my opponent has Force of Will. Let's see if I'm right. I'm right. So now, I can potentially next turn play Emperor of Bones, get the Goyf back, deal some damage, get some extra cards. Multiple extra cards, probably. One from this. One from the Ketramose trigger. one from Goyf trigger if I'm lucky, one from Solitude trigger as well. This doesn't trigger once per turn or anything. Alpha with these fucking wastelands. At least these are 1/1s. They still get to attack. I am going to assume that just doing this around days while cantripping is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just Solitude one of these here. Alright, so first Ketramose trigger. So I will lose 1 life, draw a card. Holy fucking shit, that's good. Yeah, let's do that. This one could get dazed or forced or whatever. I mean, oh my god, everything worked, everything worked. Holy shit. Okay, good turn, good turn. Second land drop. That's a Delver. And a Lightning Bolt. Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. Flooded Strand is fine. I'm going to play this so I'm not dazable here. So, combat. Let's take a Ponder out of my opponent's... Or no. They have multiple lands, multiple sorceries, multiple instants, 1 creature. Take out DRC. Ketramose trigger. Oh! 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 My stuff all resolved last turn, so unless their draw for turn was days, this just happens, and now I get to do this shit again. This is sweet. Yeah. Opponent's at 19. I made a land drop this turn already. Pass. Next turn I get to Solitude or Goyf or whatever if my opponent does not have a Lightning Bolt effect. It is a Brainstorm. Fuck, maybe I need to be playing Bojuka Bog in my flex slots. Oh man. So I just get to kill that Delver. Ooh, that's coming later too. So go to combat. Bone Zone. Bowmaster, Solitude, Goy. Lots of good options here. I'm just going to take the... Oh. Lots of good options here. Boggart Trawler. Boggart Trawler is fucking nuts here, actually. So, Ketramose trigger. Nice. So now I nuke my opponent's graveyard, turn this into a thing that attacks, and then I gain 4 life every turn, menace indestructible. Okay, okay. Woo! There's certainly something here in terms of power level. Do I want a Leyline because it turns on Ketramose and is like otherwise salvageable in this matchup? All my cards are pretty okay though, unless I want to dump something like Lotus Petal. But Lotus Petal helps me play around days. I don't know, do I just win longer games with Goyf, Overlord, Ketramose, Phelia, Emperor of Bones? Maybe I just win longer games. What does it look like if I Leyline? I take out Lotus Petals and like trim 1 Phelia or something like that. Sure. Let's try this on the draw. We are very much experimenting though, so I don't know if this is right. This is an okay set of cards here. I am comfortable keeping this. This doesn't have the Leyline of the Void, and I would really prefer 1 more land, but I just have the ability to nuke an initial creature and then use Emperor of Bones to nuke future creatures as well, while also just having something that should rock the ever-loving shit out of this matchup. Bowboy is fine. I think here, though, I'm just like not going to let my opponent get initial Surveil value. I'm just going to try to remove this now at the cost of an extra card. It's not dazable. And the Solitude's going to graveyard just means that Emperor of Bones or Overlord of the Balemurk can bring them back later. What do we have? Brainstorm as follow-up. That's coming in before my Bowmaster. Biggest thing I'm thinking about on my end right now is whether or not I am getting a Surveil land with this. The Surveil land looking for the extra land is actually quite nice. And if I'm already going to be vulnerable to Wasteland anyway, that might just be taking me off to, like, an extra color if I fetch a basic myself here. Delver is fine. I will attempt to Bowmaster that. I think I am going to look for the extra land here. Perfect. Put that on top. And Daze is a thing, but I think we're just jamming here. The Delver can potentially flip, and then this isn't a removal spell for it anymore. Yes, that is acceptable. And then hopefully we just kind of exhaust our opponent of resources between these 3 cards here. No Delver flip. There was a fetch last turn, right? Yeah, there was a fetch last turn. So there's that Volk again. Delver should in theory be set up to flip, meaning that Bowmasters isn't a removal spell for it, but Solitude is. I think I'm going to drop an Emperor of Bones here. and be able to play this around days. This card's pretty annoying. It's answerable via a lightning bolt, but it's pretty annoying. So if my opponent does not have an immediate removal spell, it is possible that they counter it. Now, Emperor of Bones next turn on 4 mana potentially represents the immediate ability to adapt and remove Delver. That is not going to be actualized here, though. I am at 15. I'm going to get another Shadowy Backstreet, but let the record show that I do recognize that Price of Progress is a hell of a fucking drug, and that my opponent could have it as a 2-of in their sideboard. I'm going to say no to that. I just have a bunch of removal spells in my deck that I could draw. I also have 4 Leyline of the Voids that I could draw right now that would not be particularly great. This is not one of them. So I'll fetch. I'll grab a Plains. Since I know my opponent has Bolt, I'm not going to play Emperor of Bones immediately. I'm going to drop the Big Boy. Big Boy is in play. It could be double bolted. AETHERDRIFT is great. That is a very good tempo play from my opponent. And it's these sorts of hands where my opponent plays like Delver into Brazen Borrower that made me not want to play the Leyline of the Voids for game 2. And it's like the DRC Murktide style hands that the Leyline is very, very good against. Notably here, though, if my opponent tapped out for a Murktide Regent, I would just get to Solitude it. All right, so Brazen Borrower is potentially coming. Ooh. I mean, yup. Fetching is a really big deal here. It is a difference. It is a meaningful difference in life total. I think if I fetch, I get to take Lightning Bolt from their hand. So I'm going to do that rather than Lightning Bolt going to my face. Oh no, what am I fucking talking about? That was so dumb. Because the Lightning Bolt goes to my face now. They don't need to worry about the combat step anymore. I just fucking died. Oh, I'm an idiot. Died with Goyf on board when I had another turn. Oh, that's frustrating. It's on me. It's on me. Okay, this doesn't get off the ground here. This is an incredibly polarizing hand where, depending on what we play against, this is either the best hand in the world or absolutely terrible. I think on 6, I am going to keep it and hope that we are playing against a creature deck. Do I keep all the swords or do I hedge? The Phelia does not have anything good to blink right now. I'm going to get rid of the Phelia, keep triple swords, and be prepared to be good versus a creature deck and die to a non-creature deck. Delver? 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 Okay, it is Delver. So the next question becomes, do I swords immediately or do I attempt to play around days? I think with 3 of these, I just attempt to trade. And not let my opponent surveil a bunch of stuff into graveyard. What land I play is a little weird. They could get wastelanded off of black if I fetch basic here. I think I am going scrub. And seeing if I can remove this immediately. It is a daze. When we get the daze type stuff out of way, we can hopefully resolve this. That is my way to spiral this game. Yep, I mean, that was known. Well, it was known that that could happen. Could have played Witch Enchanter on 1. Potentially gotten that wastelanded instead. There's a lot of times where I can just play this as a tapped land because I don't have anything to do with my mana, is what I was going for. I don't think that happens now. Now I think I should have done that in their upkeep when there's Force of Negation and there's no difference between my turn and their turn. Is a Force of Will instead. Next turn I'll hope to Swords to Plowshares around a daze and then do a Surveil land. Ooh, opponent has Stifle in their deck. Good to know. Bulk from my opponent. Delver is fine. It's scary if my opponent continues to counterspell my stuff, though. I will take 1 happily. I'm at 15. 2 card types in graveyard over there, despite it being turn 3. So let's swords this DRC immediately. Now, do I want to get rid of the Delver at the cost of 2 cards? Not really, but I think I'm going to. These Solitudes are just, like, not castable in the medium term, and we can hopefully just get 1 back with an Overlord slightly later. Now, since my opponent has shown me Stifle, I'm going to go ahead and fetch and Surveil on my own turn, which is normally not a play pattern that I would be doing. Overlord is fine. I'm going to put that on top. Sometimes I get wastelanded off of that, and that's awkward. but that is just a way to rebuy a Solitude, which is perfectly fine. Yep, this is exactly what I just talked about. A new Delver. So I will just be passing my turn here, living in fear of Wastelands and Stifles. I've also seen 3 of my Swords to Plowshares and 2 of my Solitudes already. Days is real rough. I'll take 3. I'm at 11. That's not innately that bad, but the Days that I know is going to answer my next card is pretty bad. I think I play that as a tapped land and don't Overlord this turn. And then sometimes I can still beat this Delver. Trying to beat the Delver after taking 3 more damage here is pretty rough. This not being, just some real land was a problem this turn, because I would have traded Overlord with Days in an attempt to get this down. Alright, so I'm going to Impending this, which my opponent will likely just fetch and hardcast Days, because otherwise I get a Solitude back, so I just cannot imagine this spell resolving. Well, yes. Pick up Solitude. Oh, do I pick up White Orchid Phantom? No, I don't have mana to cast that. Yeah, so I pick up Solitude. So now next turn I am hoping to draw any white card to play Solitude or any land to play Goyf. That is a lot of different things to like. You're just gonna Brazen Borrower the Overlord out of play? Is that what this is? No, no play. Or is this just an indication of something like a Stifle for the Solitude trigger? I'm at 5. Well, trade for Days. There it is. Hopefully don't die to Lightning Bolt. My Overlord ticks down. I am at 2 life. I have outs to this Delver, but my opponent is not playing more creatures, so it is likely that they have reactive spells of some kind. Yeah. So we play this do I don't I Leyline of the Void thing again. I am always playing these 2 paths. And again, the White Orchid Phantoms were specifically good versus Delvers. And questionable in a lot of other places versus, the DRCs of the world. I think I'm just going to do what I did for that previous game too, and just play a little bit more removal. And when I'm on the draw, consider Leylines. This is fine. I am finding that I wish that I had a little bit more mana. So it's possible that the 2 Lotus Petals that are in my deck to attempt to accelerate these things out a turn earlier, that's fine, should just be 2 more lands. That I should just be playing a little bit more towards the long game, like Bojuka Bog in particular, for the synergies here is perfectly reasonable. We got Fetch Land and a Ponder. Bobble's fine. The graveyard's growing fast. I wouldn't mind a reasonable 2-drop to cast around Days here. So my opponent takes a redraw. Oh, right. I know I'm drawing that. Duh. I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to leave up Bowmasters around Days and imprint one of these. And this also just leaves up Swords to Plowshares as well. I think my deck is funky enough that it might not be fully telegraphed that this is Orcish Bowmasters specifically. Alright, yeah, so I will respond there with my Bowboy. Okay, at a minimum, this is making my opponent's Ponder worse. They get a Brainstorm off in response. That means that my Bowmaster is not getting Lightning Bolted. My opponent could now use the Ponder to shuffle off Brainstorm. Okay, it is Force of Will. I'd like to just draw another land and be able to play a 4-drop of some kind around my opponent's potential Days. If I don't draw a 4-drop, sorry, a land drop, I might just slam this one immediately. Phelia is a fine use of my mana. I'm going to just go ahead and do that with my mana while holding up swords. Phelia, Ketramose, one of the things we built the deck around. We haven't seen it in action yet. Wasteland is great for my opponent. That is very, very good. I'm just going to play my dog here. Lose a land. Delver's fine. Tarfire is fine. I'm going to Swords Delver around Days, I think. It makes my turn worse if I draw a land, but I don't always draw a land. So I will go ahead and Swords. Give my opponent that 1 life. Save Path later for if my opponent has a large Murktide region or something like that. Next land drop. Oh, it's just a fetch. Sure. Could get stifled here. Let's find out if we get stifled. Don't get stifled. We're going to scrub, and I think this is the one that wins me the match. So I'm going to attempt to feed this one to a Daze effect. It's still perfectly fine if it resolves. Like, I can just path to exile a creature on a following turn and draw a card on it. Brazen Borrowers and Dazes. That is fine. Again, this was the plan. We want to actually resolve that one. The 6/7 just fucks in combat. And my opponent just used a Brazen Borrower, which would be one of their better ways to actually take that out of play. DRC is scary, but hopefully fine. My opponent has one card. Hopefully that one card is not Daze that counters this. I don't get to play around it if I don't draw a land. Lotus Petal's actually very good. Like, very, very good. Now, I get to resolve this around Daze. And then also potentially take out DRC. I think I'm going to do that in my opponent's upkeep and let that be Dazeable. To not let my opponent just Infinity Surveil on their own turn and dig for answers to this. If this one card is yet another Daze, so be it. Alright, it's gone. That does take a land out of my opponent's deck in terms of marginal deck thinning. I don't care about that. I just care about giving my opponent fewer outs to my thing that is going to win me the game if it... Honestly, probably if it hits once. Like, hitting once and returning one creature that I can play is probably good enough. My opponent probably has one more Brazen Borrower in their deck that can take this thing out of play. Sure. And this is a 6/7 Goyf, so not even like block plus bolt is going to take it out of play. My opponent did not attack with Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower can only block creatures with flying. This does not have reach, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Going to assume it was a mistake. Alright, that is 6 damage. Yes, I will mill that many cards. Take another one? Taking another one is great. Emperor of Bones dies to Lightning Bolt if that's what my opponent's one random card is. I'm gonna take another one. Okay, yeah, so my opponent says double-clicked through combat, but either way, Goyf wins this. Yeah, I agree. This is why they are in the deck. Alright, so now, when I am on the draw, do I want an extra Wrath of the Skies? Do I want an extra Leyline of the Void, or 4? I think I'm going to play one more removal spell. I am not sure how I feel about Leyline of the Void, though I am very on the fence about it. It's great in the opener a lot of the time, but in those prolonged top deck games like we're getting into, it's not what you want to be drawing. Yeah, I just need more mana in these opening hands. I think Petals are 2 more lands for the next iteration. This is great. I can start this game on 2 basics safely and still have a 3rd land drop beyond that while keeping a powerful A+B combo synergy. We didn't really want to see a turn 1 threat, but that was going to happen most of the time. Now we just don't want the Delver to blind flip. If the Delver blind flips, then Bowmasters does not kill it on turn 2. Because I know that my opponent's deck is specifically playing Stifle, I'm going to fetch a basic here. I don't think the Surveil land currently matters much. Alright, opponent is going for a Brainstorm to flip the Delver, which is annoying for us for reasons that we've already talked about. Flips to Lightning Bolt. I'm going to pop that out so we remember that one. That means that my Phelia is a little bit worse, and just like playing that as bait becomes less successful. Solitude's real good, though. Solitude's real good. So, we are going to attempt to Solitude pitching this Phelia, now that we know it is just immediately not going to be good. Got a Force of Will pitching a Daze. Alright, well, now that a Daze is gone, let's try to do this. There could be another Daze here still. There's not. Yes, Goyf is great. Solitude is not immediately good, but is powerful. I think I'm going to pick up a Solitude. I think I just don't want to die. If I don't die, I can be working towards 1 or more Overlords. That sounds like a good plan. Oh shit, bolt my fucking face. Hyper aggressive. That might be an indicator that a Murktide Regent is coming, because that feels weirdly aggressive. I'm going to be at 10 here. Next land drop. Last card, Murktide Regent. That's what makes the Lightning Bolt play make sense. And now, over the course of my turn, I'm just hoping to hit any white card to be able to Solitude. And I can Overlord to dig for a white creature, which is what I will be doing. But holy shit, it is bad if I do not hit a white creature in these 4 cards. Uh-oh. I am taking 9 damage. I need to pick up Emperor of Bones here. So next turn, I can play Emperor of Bones and get the Goyf, swing in with the Goyf to gain some more life, and potentially pick up a white card to remove Murktide Regent, and then not die to Delver. So I'm live, but oh gosh, it is scary. I'm dead to Lightning Bolt this turn, and margins are really tight this game. Is Overlord better than Emperor? No. We Emperor. So Emperor of Bones. Go to combat. Target Goyf. Adapt Goyf. Get those +1/+1 counters. Put this creature into play. Swing in for 4. I need to hit a white creature. And then I'm hopefully golden. Mill 4. Yes. Oh my god! So I dug 8 deep between Overlord and Goyf, plus a draw step, and I missed on a white creature on every one of those. That is so disappointing. That is so incredibly disappointing. Say Livy. GG's. Alright. I think we Chrome Mox here to play the Overlord immediately. And then, is Solitude or Swords to Plowshares going? Solitude is great with Overlord specifically, but it's another 2-for-1 after I'm already Chrome Moxing, so I think that is going here. And we'll see what we hit. Would you like a Solitude? I would like a Solitude. I don't think I need to play out Lotus Petal immediately and show that. I'm probably not Swords to Plowsharing something on turn 1. I guess some nut draws from Reanimator could present a creature that I want to remove immediately, and then there is reason to do so. Minamo. So when I have seen this recently, it has been in conjunction with the One Ring. I wanted Overlord to find me a reasonable follow-up play, you know, a Phelia or some other 2 to 3 mana play, but that did not happen. Puddle. And we're chilling. Hey, that is exactly what I am looking for, though. This turn, I'll go ahead and play this out. And this is already a 3-4. So this is great. Overlord down to 3 counters. Alright, there is the One Ring that I expected was coming. My opponent gets a card off of it. Bowmasters would be a huge pickup here. Ooh, gross. Yeah. Absolutely. Now which land do I blow up? I think it's this one, but it's pretty close. Alright, opponent does have a basic island. Overlord down to 2. Opponent down to 17. Picking up 2 more cards. I am on the wrong side of the One Ring here. There's a lot of times where this is not a creature being put in, but it's some big dumb artifact. I'm going to put in Solitude. I still have a Swords to Plowshares that I can potentially cast on most creatures. I mean, didn't I show you that I picked up the Solitude with the Overlord? I mean, I guess it's more life for the One Ring, but that was on board. Sure. Send it. I have a Shadowy Backstreet now off this Marsh Flats that I can use. The Overlord is not too far away from becoming a creature, but my opponent is at a high life total with the One Ring. This is not a great situation for me. If I get to attack with that Overlord, you know, great things will probably happen for me. Witch Enchanter, notably, is a destroy effect, so it cannot destroy the indestructible One Ring. Draw 3 now. Undra as land. There's another Show and Tell. I don't get to do anything about that this time. Literal nothing to put in. It is a new Emrakul. Sadness. I can find another Solitude. I can find an Overlord. Prevail. Land is not doing it. That goes to Graveyard. Land is still not doing it. Emrakul's protection, unfortunately, means that no matter how hard we click on our Swords to Plowshares, it does not get to target Emrakul. I'm not dead, though. I'm just miserable. There's a difference. Because my Overlord has now turned into a creature. So what I can do is sacrifice a bunch of permanents to the Emrakul attack, and then return a Solitude to my hand. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll take the 15. Overlord on attack or damage when it's at attacks. Okay, so that is a guaranteed way to get a Solitude back. I have a guaranteed white card in hand for that. But my opponent has 10 cards in hand and a shit ton of mana. Cameo is whatever. Brainstorm flipping the Tameo is whatever. Tameo getting back a Swords to Plowshares another turn cycle or so from now is a problem, though. That is a new One Ring for protection. That is not super relevant, but it's still saving my opponent 5 life and letting them draw a card. Oh, excuse me. Tameo is not going to flip. My opponent had already drawn cards with the One Ring. My brain was just kind of on autopilot there. Send it. Burn, Solitude. Dealing no combat damage because of the One Ring trigger. Now we see if this resolves. I'm dead to Force of Will. Yeah. Had to try. Alright. So I can Thoughtseize to attempt to disrupt my opponent's One Ring. I don't think I like Wrath of the Skies or Path to Exile or even Deafening Silence. White Orchid Phantom is kind of mid. It has text. I don't know that it's exciting. Swords to Plowshares is not particularly exciting, but my opponent is playing Tameo. So there is some reason to keep Swords to Plowshares in specifically. I think I'm going to do this. This is an okay hand that I don't think is actually good enough. Like, it stops initial creatures, but Emperor of Bones is not super strong in the matchup, and it's not like my opponent is going to be playing enough things that I want to answer this many creatures. I think I can do better than that. This is not great. This has a Solitude for a Show and Tell, and a turn 2 Emperor of Bones. I'm not happy with that. It also has a Chrome Mox that is kind of dead. I'm in a mulligan. I'm rewarded with not enough land to play my stuff. I'm going to keep this hand. Phelia is going. Emperor of Bones is going. And I think I Thoughtseize on one to try to pave the way for a Bowmaster to resolve and hope that that is going to be good. I think I am going to take my opponent's Ponder and leave them with the Brainstorm, hoping to catch the Brainstorm off of Bowmasters. Leaving them with the Omniscience can be a little scary later on. I didn't want them to play Brainstorm around Bowmaster, but they did. Smart play, like, it's what you should do. But in mulliganing this deep, I am trying to swing for plays that are higher upside for me. Yuck. It's probably the worst draw in my entire deck there. I'm gonna try to floop this into play. Alright, that at least worked. I didn't want to wait until my opponent's upkeep when they were likely to cycle with Lorien Revealed in case there was another Brainstorm in their hand. Or something that, I don't know, they also could have just, like, kept all of their cards, and that could have been awkward for me as well. That was no Lorien Revealed shuffle, by the way. Prismatic Ending is fine if I draw something that lets me Bowmaster again. Which I did. I will do that immediately so that I can attack in with the slightly larger Orc Army token and bring my opponent to 16. Well, there's the One Ring with a Bowmaster in play. So this first card draw is free. I can't shoot them, but I can shoot my own Orc Army token to just grow this. Solitude has no immediate text. No damage this turn. Very real amounts of damage to my opponent on following turns, though. My opponent is at 13. Ancient Tomb costs 2. The One Ring is 1 damage at minimum per turn cycle, but more realistically, my opponent is probably just going to try to draw through and win through my Bowmaster here. Show and Tell Omniscience Emrakul is a hell of a drug. Land drop. That's a new copy of the One Ring. My opponent is staving off death for now. And similarly to the previous turn, I can't shoot them here. I can shoot my Orc Army token, though. There's a fetch. At this point, my next combat step that I actually get that's real is likely to be lethal. This is another set of Bowmaster triggers. And again, I will ping my Orc to grow it. So One Ring trigger is going on here. I could play a Goyf. I don't really think it makes sense to do that and stop Solitude from being something that I can put in off of a Show and Tell. So I think I'm just going to hold here. Opponent takes 1. They can just draw cards with the One Ring. They're dead next turn anyway. So Show and Tell Omniscience Emrakul, deleting every single one of my permanents, beats me. So my opponent should not put in Emrakul directly here. They should Omniscience, assuming that they still have that in hand. But I can't cast this Solitude, so the best I can do is put this into play and hope that that doesn't happen. I'm not going to gain the life here. If my opponent can Emrakul afterwards, they can Emrakul afterwards. There's a Swords to Plowshares, opening up my opponent's One Ring draws. And my opponent can now potentially chain together multiple copies of Lorien Revealed. There is an Emrakul, and with this degree of damage and deleting 4 of my permanents here, my opponent has got this in 2 turns, and even their One Ring does not kill them. GG's. All right. Assuming no like wasteland on the other side of the battlefield, I have a decent start to this game. I can pitch cast a Solitude to remove an early threat and then get this going. I'm getting unmasked. I'll have a secondary Solitude to stop whatever reanimation spell thing goes on here on the other side of the battlefield. It's looking like some mono black reanimator nonsense. Lost Phelia. Dark Ritual. Entomb. That is a Grizzlebrand. Grizzlebrand, pretty good versus single target removal here. So now my opponent can draw a whole bunch of cards. I could Solitude Grizzlebrand immediately to make them commit to the extra cards. But that just gives them the life right back, and they could use that life again immediately to do another Grizzlebrand to draw, or actual factual reanimate or something. So let's just let them go down. Alright, we are going into combat, at which point I will happily take this out. I will Solitude, probably pitching my 3-drop here. That is just not super castable. The problem is that my opponent has a 15-card hand and an acceptable amount of life. So I think what's going to happen post-combat is that I eat a discard spell, and then my opponent makes a creature that I end up losing to. Yep, so there is the Unmask of Prophecy. I lose the Solitude, and now presumably we see Lotus Petal Dark Rit do a thing. Oh no, not immediately. Great. Now I can have a turn to play a tapped land and pretend that life has meaning. Like that's an Atraxa going to Yard and a Grizzlebrand. You've got it. Seems strong. I'll junk that land. We're basically looking to draw Solitude, Swords to Plowshares for the remainder of this game. But life's awful. I just don't know that I can beat this deck in game 1 on the draw here, where I'm just woefully behind now. You know, in the post-sideboard games where I can, like, do all this sort of stuff, it's fine. They took my White Orchid Phantom with Cabal Therapy. That is a hasty Atraxa. An Animate Dead can happen on a Grizzlebrand. I think we can save everyone 2 minutes of their life. Leyline of the Void is obvious. My opponent will probably have some creature-based sideboard plan, you know, the Douthie Voidwalkers and such of the world. Thoughtseize, Deafening Silence are playable. White Orchid Phantom is very bad here. How is this? It's fine if I get it going, but we simply did not get it going very often today. I think, unfortunately, it's kind of a weak link in this round. This round is just going to be so blisteringly fast. I think I'm going to Deafening Silence or Thoughtseize. I don't know that if I get both, if I also want to just keep all of the removal. I could go down Phelia's, honestly. My white count starts to get a little low, though. Like, looking at Solitude, the Solitudes now are sketch. This is a very black deck at this point. The synergy with Overlord is still very good, but it's very easy to miss. I think since it's easy to miss, I'm going to actually go down one of those. I could Path instead. Yeah, actually, maybe I do that. My creature count is a little low for Overlord. This is fine. So get Scrub, Chrome Mox, Imprint, something. I guess I don't need to make that decision yet. I'm always going to Thoughtseize this turn first. All right, so my opponent is going Chain of Smog combo as their pivot plan. I just take an Unmask, right? Then they don't get to see my hand for Cabal Therapy purposes. Yeah, that seems fine. So then I Chrome Mox, Imprint a white card, Deafening Silence. That effectively shuts off Dark Ritual. And I don't think my opponent is going to hit one of these cards blind. Could be wrong, but that's unfortunate. That was their draw. Alright. I've lost the Emperor. I mean, they know about it. I guess I will just stick this. King you, pass. So now my opponent's Therapies and Chain of Smogs and Dark Rituals are all not particularly good. They have to get a Witherbloom Apprentice before my deck does something that kills them. And they probably can't Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog in the same turn cycle, at least not for quite some time. That's not what I'm looking for. It's a Surveil land, which is not the end of the world, but it's not super strong here. 14. I'm honestly a little surprised my opponent kept their hand. It just doesn't do anything. Like, it attacks me via discard, but if I were in their position, I would be trying to win the game. There's the green land that they will need to Witherbloom Apprentice. I'll Surveil land. Grabbing Shadowy Backstreet. Absolutely do not want to draw Chrome Mox at this stage. Witch Enchanter is not very good. It's part of the mana base, so I don't get to board it out or anything. But this is a vanilla 2/2 that I'm paying 4 mana for. Not the ideal. Spoils of the Vault. So my opponent is going to lose some amount of life here to attempt to get a Witherbloom Apprentice. They can put that into play on their next turn, and then try to Chain of Smog the following turn. So that's a little scary. If I draw an out here. No, I draw a land. And I am unfortunately dead. Like, I can attack for 4 points of damage at maximum if my opponent doesn't block anything, and then Chain of Smog gets me. That is very frustrating as a loss there. So our deck did not do the thing very much today. Alright. So, overall thoughts on the deck list. Despite the fact that we put no wins on the board, we played competitive games of Magic in most of the rounds, and this is pretty close. I think Lotus Petal was the biggest deck building mistake. I think the deck just needs to be like a 23 or 24 land deck. That's probably change number 1. You just have to get to 3 mana on turn 3 pretty much every time here. I conceptually like Chrome Mox still. Accelerating like Phelia turn 1, Overlord turn 2, or Phelia turn 1, Ketramose turn 2 is very good. I think that is important. The deck is a little black for being a Solitude deck. You could make some adjustments in some capacity that help out with that. Maybe you don't get to play Goyf. I think Goyf is very good. Like, very, very, very good. But maybe you just don't get to play that many white cards. Sorry, that many black cards. You could build this as a Vial deck instead. But Legacy is so fast that I don't think Vial makes that much sense. If you did a Yorion version of this deck, then yeah, I think the Vial at that point makes sense because like you are always working towards Vial Yorion. So like you could take the D&T shell, which is somewhat similar to this, and try to insert Ketramose, and it would probably be fine. When you stick this and every Phelia trigger, Emperor of Bones trigger, Solitude, Swords to Plowshares becomes a cantrip, it is nuts. And we did see that in one round. But we lined this up exactly once. I made some objective mistakes during this league. The deck's a little weird, and this is a brand new card. So, like, I forgot about it needing the 7 or more cards one time. That was on me. Overlord helping to scale up Goyf is really cool. I like that a lot. So there's stuff here, but I think we have to try again tomorrow. So my plan for tomorrow's video will be to record a Rest in Peace version where every card is always going to exile. And so when we play this, almost certainly without fail, it should be a 4/4 Menace lifelinker. So we'll go back to the drawing board, and that is going to mean rebuilding this deck, because if we're being a Rest in Peace deck, we don't get to be this Overlord Emperor of Bones deck anymore. So we'll see where that ends up. Come back tomorrow to find out, and if you need your Ketramoses because you think they're going to be good, we already know they're good in Modern, and we'll see if they pass the bar in Legacy. Know where to go. All right. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.